The Lekker Rugby Pod. Rugby across the globe from a South African perspective.
This is the second edition of the Lekker Rugby Pod with Harry Jones. I'm MW Welman. Hello, Harry. How's it?
How's it, MV? What do you think about our first episode? I feel like some people liked it.
I think they liked it. I think more people know about it. I had auditioned several of my cats, seeing that they played a starring role. The one you saw last week refused to entertain any thoughts of her as a future as an entertainer. But my other one stepped up. So he might just pop around. You never know.
She's a diva. She's already a diva. You know, one moment in the spotlight, and now she's got demands. She wants her own dressing room.
Yeah, well, she was a diva even before, let's be honest now. She's even worse now. Tuna,
so
man.
My one thing is we call ourselves a Lekker Rugby Pod. And I mean, you're a little bit more lekker than I am today, but this was an unlekker, unholy weekend of rugby.
Well, I tell you what, last night when we started talking, I just came back from Loftus, having experienced what I saw there, and having heard what I heard in the press conference afterwards, and then I had to come stream the game, the Stormers game. So it wasn't my best Saturday ever, I'll be honest with you. When we spoke last night, I was actually quite dejected, you know. The Bulls won, but you said, you know, sometimes you win, but you don't really wanted to win. And I'm worried about, I'll be honest, and I'm going to call it blunt, and Jake's gonna let me know this probably this week, but I was a bit worried about Jake's demeanor after that game. He was a bit, I could see it. He's worried, man.
Yeah. Do you feel like he kind of knew in his heart of hearts that this squad he's got at this point in time doing what they're doing right now, probably not enough?
No, it's not the squad. Things were going swimmingly until Tuesday. And we even had Kane and Moody in the press conference still. He was all, you know, people asked him, you know, you were bandaged quite heavily around your knee and the like. He said, no, it's just bumps and bruises. Next morning, the news broke that he was out. And we heard on Friday that he's got a finger operation. He had a finger operation.
Yeah.
He got injured in one of those freak tackles. He just fell funny with his hand. That was that. And then that was the first setback. And then he picked Sergio Peterson, who was on an 8-week, he just came off his 8-week leave. And the reason they're doing that, I told you this before, is they have to now rest these players to prepare them for the Currie Cup, which might or might not happen. So Sergio Peterson came in, and I told you he's like a pensioner, I think. He's now rusty, hasn't played for 8 weeks. And he goes straight into basically a starting side after Kirtley went off. Benetton just smiled like a cat that got the bird, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know what the right saying is there, but they just knew it, and then they just targeted it. And both sides, both wingers, Sebastian de Klerk as well, good player, everything, but inexperienced compared to a guy like Kirtley or Kanan and like. And he said it afterwards. That coach impressed me endlessly. I'll tell you what, he just knew where to strike. And now even with Kirtley and Kanan, they were a bit weak on the wings, but the cover defense usually saves us there. But with these two slower guys and more inexperienced guys, no, man, they just slaughtered us. Yeah.
On a high felt, I think on a high felt, I think wings are more important than in some other places when you play. The way you play on a high felt is different for wings. Sergio, I always call him Surprise Peterson. I know him very well. I think he's always surprised when something good happens. We shouldn't be surprised when something bad happens. he's the surprise, and you don't want that surprise. I think, to your point, knockout rugby is much different. It's immediately when you're knockout rugby, everything tightens down a little bit. You win or you lose based on the errors. It's not like, you know, I did 7 heroic things and you did 6. It's usually we both did good stuff, and then you're the one who stuffed up 3 times and I did twice, and I made you pay for yours and you didn't make me pay for mine, you know, that kind of stuff. So when you have rusty winger, to your point, or you have someone who's just never been in a pressure cooker that much, it's obvious, you see it. And I think opposing teams are good or bad based on their ability to find that. So I think you're spot on. With the Stormers, it was actually a similar thing. Glasgow was very clever at finding the exact holes and the exact problems. And that's knockout rugby, and no one we should take that on. I mean, that's literally what I would use the off season talking about is, so what were those holes? How could we fill them?
I wouldn't discount the fact that Benetton played us 3 weeks ago, at Loftus. And they, we put 9 tries past them, but they came back with 5 tries of their own. And he said so. He said, listen, guys, number one, it was much cooler, suited us much better than the temperatures they had 3 weeks ago. Number two, they learned all the lessons they had to learn. And then, lo and behold, our two kingpins, like you just said, how important the wings are for this Bulls team lately. Now suddenly both of them out. I just had a ball, man. And like you asked me earlier, why did I think Jake realized his team wasn't good enough? No, his team was good enough until Tuesday. Losing two World Cup winning Bok wingers, any team will struggle coping with that. And the problem is that there's no depth might be there, but on those wingers, there's a problem. Honestly, I think he said something, he alluded maybe to putting David Creel on the wing. I don't think David's such a good wing. I don't think he's that fast, to be honest with you. I saw him being overhauled by some of the other players. No, it's not that quick.
And some players are quick downhill, but they're not quick on the turn, and so all the defensive systems nowadays require you to swivel, and you got to have quick hips. You've got to be able to decelerate quickly as well. So if you're a kind of a quick guy, but it's because you're got momentum, you're going to struggle in the stop, turn, twist kind of defense that you have to have on rush, any kind of rush, permutation of rush. I was thinking of asking you this: what if your man, the Goose, Johan Goosen, had just taken the brief pleasure of stretching back and putting the ball down on the ground when he was already lying down over the try line? Would that have changed the complexion of the game? Because then I think at that point in time, you have a real possibility of a blowout. It was like, it was Bulls were in a mood. They were running, it was like the Bulls of Pamplona again. It was a big, unbelievable push. He goes over the try line. He can go anywhere he wants to score, really. He can go under the armpit. He can make that sound under his armpit with the ball, whatever. He could do something crazy. And then instead, he does a bizarre offload to Benetton.
Yeah. Well, I told you last week, Johan Goosen is a good player. Actually, let me rephrase this. Either a brilliant player or a bad player. And the problem is he's often both those things in one game. He did not have he did not have a good game. I mean, he was lucky twice not to get caught. And both of those things happened right in front of us. We saw it. He was so lucky. And like that thing, I wouldn't expect that from the kind of player that he is. You know what, coming to think of it now, if we move Creel to wing, who's going to be center? And Jake more than once said that Goosen played center for, who was it, Racing 92? Maybe move him in there and maybe move Chris Smith in there. Because there's something going on with Chris Smith and Jake White, by the way. I'm telling you now. I asked him, why did you never replace Goosen? He said, but I also didn't replace Papier because I didn't want to upset the rhythm, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's just the concept of a bench. You do that anyway, regardless. So I'm worried about the fact that Smith didn't come on. But I think maybe next week, I wouldn't be surprised seeing Smith at 10, maybe Goosen or somebody at center, because no one else that I can think of off the top of my head. Henry Immelman played one game since his return to the Bulls. And Creel moving to the wing.
I love how cross you are after a win. I would like to have a win and then be able to be grumpy. But I'm sitting here bereft. All is lost. All is gone. Doom and gloom. We're gone. Goodbye. Let's all go fishing. Build a dam on the Karoo. You actually can live another day, and I don't think you're out of it. I just think you're right that the Bulls have to clearly make the team they face play worse than they should. The easiest thing, of course, is you're superior. You go, so now we just focus on our game. If we do everything right, we win. No, it's the other way around. You have to junk it up. You have to throw, curveballs. You have to do something that takes the other team out their rhythm. Otherwise, it doesn't look good, right? So what do you think that is? What can the Bulls do to pull something new?
I saw, I'm going to ask you the other way around, to answer your question the other way around. I saw what people said what Leinster must do. They must just keep the ball away from us. Because we don't have the ball, we can't attack. And when we also don't have the ball, we can't defend. So that's the way they're going to beat the Bulls now. Don't give them the ball. Don't allow them to attack. No.
The Bulls are playing off, right? You guys, I think someone was saying everyone stay on their feet. We want to have 14 guys on their feet, 1 second post every ruck. The problem with that is no one was completing the tackle. And sometimes you need two guys to make the tackle.
Yeah.
In fact, in the modern game, you often need two guys to make the tackle a 6 second, 5 second tackle, a wrestling, grappling, UFC tackle. That allows the rest of your line to reconfigure by only having one up, and not really dominating the tackle. And no one getting over the ball. Not even one time did I see Bulls really kind of, actually kill the ball, slow the ball, mess up the ruck. it just gave Benetton a way back in the game. And like as you said, Leinster's not going to be that charitable if you give if you give Leinster the ball for whatever 10, 12, 15 phases. You're just going to get so hurt. Yeah, that's what I think is they can junk it up by smashing the rock, by countering the right time. You look at what Toulouse did in the final. I think the Bulls have the personnel with Marcel Coetzee to do that.
Yeah.
It has to be Marcel. I don't see anyone else doing it right now with his body shape. If you had Marco van Staden and Marcel Coetzee, you could do exactly what Toulouse did, as long as you got your locks to just come with their best game ever.
Yeah, well, at least both Marco and Marcel will be back next week. And we had a chat with Marcel after the game, and he's ready to go. Looks in good shape and everything else. So you said to me earlier that we didn't have that dominance. We didn't go over the ball. We didn't push the envelope. And Jake was on about Carr being a cleaner number 6 than Marco, for example, because he doesn't push the envelope. He doesn't play on the border of being illegal, which Marco's quite good at, and Marcel is also quite good at. So yeah, I'm with you there. I'm sure they're going to be more what's the word, confrontational almost in those breakdowns. And that's the only way I can think of is to break them down physically. Saying that, last week we scrummed the Springbok front row to pieces in Durban, and Benetton gave us a hard time in the scrums in Pretoria. I don't get it. That's something else that upsets me, I'll be honest with you. Don't know what happened there.
I can feel it. I like it. I'm getting the vibe. But I do think the Bulls can do what you're saying. I think that's all achievable. They have to make Leinster play unhappy rugby. Yeah, they have to be. It has to be like one of those things where the Springboks play the All Blacks, and it just seems like if we let them off to the races, they're going to win. And then you just make sure they never get off to the races. That's what you do. You just make everything ugly. You make everything unfun, and then you have smiling. You have frowning All Blacks instead of smiling All Blacks. I would think Leinster's a happy team, and they play better happy. They looked unhappy in the Championship Cup final near the end, and then in the extra time, Toulouse just made them sad. So maybe the Bulls have to tap back into old Bulls, ancient, the old archetype, which is come here and we make you sad. Instead of this kind of like, hey, let's play with lots of space and everyone go crazy and offload everywhere to nowhere. That just gives too much counter to the opposite team. But anyway, all this stuff. It's going to have to be grim, crunchy, gritty. Yeah, get in there in the trenches.
Pretoria rugby, man. There we go.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we want.
It's in the DNA. It's there. It just, I think there was something about like keep ball in play and get on your feet, which is great if you're going to do what the Bulls have done for a lot of the season, which is just outscore you. But I don't see that really working next week.
Can I just say this? I think if Kirtley was still on the field and we were playing that game, it would have had a different result, a better result.
Absolutely.
I said to you yesterday, Willie might be the brains and the pack might be the brawns or the brawn. But Kirtley was a guy that put it all together almost, if I can put it like that, and to a less degree maybe came. And we were going to miss that big time.
It's very interesting, isn't it? Yeah, that a team, when a guy's missing, you see his value sometimes.
Anyway, enough about the Bulls. Let's talk about the Stormers. I say with a sly smile. There we go. Maybe not so sly. Maybe quite upfront about it. What on earth do you think went wrong there? I mean, apart from the obvious, the number 10 that didn't fire again, yeah?
Yeah, so in knockout rugby, which the Stormers for 2 seasons in a row had shown an ability to play better than they were, to rise to the occasion and play proper knockout rugby, you can really pull off some stuff. But you have to do your fundamentals. There's no way around it. You can never do what the Stormers did. I think that in knockout rugby, you have to know who you are. And right now, the Stormers don't know exactly. There are more than one thing. There are 3 things. There are 4 things. And they come in and out of that thing. It's like a multiple personality team where you just want to sit down on the couch and say, let's do some therapy before we play, guys. Like, let's all decide what it is we're trying to do. If we're trying to do field position and if we're trying to kick, if we're trying to use wind for, wind against, so it was a strong wind, then there's a lot of things that have to change. When we set up our chase, there has to be 3 guys coming. All those 3, we need a composition. We need a flyer, we need a fetcher, we need a, effer-upper. And why are we chasing with two lightweight guys, or why are we chasing with two props? It made no sense to me, the chase. The kicks were fine sometimes, but the chase was terrible. Why are we going cross kick when we have an ability? We have advantage. The possibility is the ref will call it over if the kick kind of lands, and then we're kind of in no better position than we were with the penalty. Why are we being soft-minded and sentimental about someone kicking badly? Well, we already know the story. So yank, quick, go, switch. We have another kicker. Sasha's there. That kind of bloody-mindedness in the coaching box and on the field wasn't there. So the Stormers deserve to lose. They should lose. They must take that on the chin, and they must actually be better because they stop doing fairy tales, which is, in the final 2 years in a row. So this year we're just going to do even more junky ball. We're just going to play the ball around, and we're going to have good highlights, but we're going to lose in the first round. And that's what happened. Glasgow, kudos to them. They did the other thing. Whatever they did was exactly what I'm saying, in opposite. Glasgow, the Warriors knew exactly what they were trying to do. They banked their points. I think they made good decisions. They chased really hard. I thought they put the Stormers out of the comfort zone, and we didn't have an adaptation in the game. It was everyone looking at someone else to save us. Manie was not the general on the field. I don't know who the general was supposed to be, but it wasn't him. Bad day.
That's the thing. It was supposed to be him, but it wasn't him. That's one of the problems. Manie and BMT. Manie is a great player, but I'm going to say it, I don't think he's got much BMT. Every time there's pressure on, whether it's the clock ticking away in the corner there, or it's a big game, he doesn't perform. He doesn't deliver. I mean, you can say he's done it before, but when it really comes down to it, I mean, he got yanked after 30 minutes against England in the World Cup. Same thing. I don't know. Worries me.
It's no shame on people, right? There's levels. There's levels in every industry, every profession. And usually at the top end of that, it's the ability to handle pressure. It's the calmness of thought, the immediacy of action, the decisiveness. I think you can take as a microcosm the way Manie, and God bless him, I love Manie. Manie's such a good guy. But the way he uses the T and the clock, he actually heaps pressure on himself. Let me think of someone who's really quick on the and always like Mornay Stain, one of our great kickers in the history of rugby. He never lingered long over the ball. He had a very simple setup, and he went and did his job. Frans Steyn banging three penalties over from Springbok half in Wellington, New Zealand, or wherever it was, Hamilton maybe. 10 seconds. Every study of golf has shown that the longer you linger over the ball on the tee to drive, you have more lactic acid, you get tightened up, you do not get better at your drive, which requires free-flowing, swing. Kickers are the same as it's the same as golf. Just go to golf. They have incredible mental tricks and analytics, and they have good coaches. Your swing coach will tell you, have a simple setup, no bells and whistles. You know exactly what you're doing. You go into it and you do it. You don't sit there and second guess yourself. I watch Manie all the time and I go, oh no, now he's into that second guessing. Oh, now he's trying to calm himself down. Now he has 7 seconds left, 5 seconds left. I'm going to miss.
No, you can see it beforehand. The moment he's over a certain period of time that he's standing there, he's not going to do it. It's just the way it is. I want to talk to you about the Springbok squad that was announced just now. But before we do that, I want to just say one more thing about the Stormers. I think they miss a proper number 6. Even if Evan Roos was playing, he's not a 6. He didn't do well as a 6 before. I think it was against the Ospreys, if I'm not mistaken. Didn't impress. And I think that's you talked about the Bulls struggling with a 6. Stormers struggled even more, I think.
Yeah, it seems like the whole in South African rugby right now is, the proper flow. Francois Lowe kind of 6, Heinrich Brosseau. And everyone always says the Fetcher is dead and the Jackler is dead, but it's never dead. And it just comes in and out of critical. Right now, maybe as crucial as ever is to have a loose trio where pretty much everyone can get over the ball, plus a hooker. So 4 players in your pack that are really legitimate threats over that, spread across the field, in your defensive line. No ball is safe. Yes, you can take your 6 phases. We don't care. Have your 7 phases. They're going nowhere. You might have gained 7 meters, but then we jackal. or the threat of it makes you have to box. So it's a killer on defense versus attack. Stormers didn't have that. You're right. There were fundamentals missing from the team, and wonderful players all. I think highlight packages really good, but yeah, on the nut, on the hard, on the like cracking nuts, gravel, that kind of stuff, it was missing. And I think you can cover that over with superlative players for a while, like a Dion Fury can kind of be Mr. Everything, but nah, not for 3 years, not for 4 years.
The other last thing, like you said, the coaching box, taking Sasha off early rather than giving him the kicking duties. Maybe he was injured, I don't know, but yeah, that
he had cramps.
Is that what it was?
No, so it came out that he had cramps, which is obviously a killer for a kicker. And they were obviously going to go to him for the kicking. He literally, I think, self-reported out of that. Like, I'm not going to do it. I got cramps. So that's fair enough. I get it. But to your point, they could have gone there from the start. And I think there's this kind of weird thing where they're trying to handle perceptions, and in knockout rugby, you got to be unsentimental. The most successful knockout coaches lately, which was Jacques and Rassi and Felix, they had no sentiment. Like, no one was safe. You're Dwayne Vermeulen, you're an icon, you're Ibn Etzebeth. So what? We yank you. Gone.
Yeah, true. No, it's I'll be honest with you, my comments last year we spoke about when Andre came in, and the comments were the most divisive I've ever seen, because immediately it split along racial lines. And I'm going to say this, but it's the truth. Yeah, but you can't criticize him because you're being racist, or you can criticize him too much because you're a racist, whatever the point might be. And I don't want to get into that too much. That's why they're so careful about the perception, how they handling him. But anyway, let's move on. I'm not going to spin. Yeah.
I'll say this on that. I think if you want to have a culture and a team of getting better, you shouldn't really use the sort of like almost soft condescension. People are or they're not doing well. You can put, you can say, you just said Kurtley Arnse was maybe the most important player in your team, the glue, the matrix that he helped. In a way, sort of helps Willie Leroux's mental frailties, because Willie can be a little bit crazy sometimes.
Yep.
So, like, we can go stereotypes all day long, but you just said the other thing, and so now you're just pointing to a real empirical fact that sometimes on the crunch time, Marnie's kicking doesn't always come through. We can remember that one moment where he did, but if you look at the numbers, he kicks worse under pressure than well. Whereas a guy like Andre Pollard literally can miss quite a few kicks, but when the game's on the line, there's not many occasions where Andre Pollard lost a game because he missed a kick.
Yeah. Anyway, that's self-perpetuating, I think. They used to say Marnie's he's got a memory of a goldfish. That's not true. He remembers. There's trauma there, man. There's trauma. So you don't recover the PTA. What do you call it? PSD. Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. There we go. Sorry, forgot it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's the everybody's.
By the way, on the Harry Index, the prestigious, highly objective and oddly subjective, but incredibly inerrant and infallible Harry Index, your Bulls fell by winning all the way to number 9. But fear not, because you can vault right back up. But I did make them pay a price. Too long as well fell. So we have some shuffling there. And what is interesting to me is you are now on your MVA index, the Super Rugby teams are actually on the rise for you. The Blues, the Hurricanes, and the Brumbies. Yeah.
Well, they're not on the rise. They're still the top 3. They were in my index last week.
They're holding.
Top 3.
Yeah.
They're holding, and even Leinster held. The only one that moved up was the Saints, because they won last week. This weekend they won the premiership final.
I had I shouldn't say the Harry Index, not me. The Harry Index has the Saints up as well. I don't think, though, they can go all the way up. The Saints really struggled to put away a 14-man red-carded Bath, and I think in the end they were a good team. There's no question that Northampton is a good team, but they weren't dominant in their league. It wasn't clear on another day if the prop lowers his head by 6 inches. It's not clear that would have been a Saints victory. I don't think it. In fact, I think it wasn't. I think Bath was actually better prepared on the day. They seemed to have the dominance in the game line.
You see, the way I do this is I look at the, like you said, data-driven MV. I look at the entire season, and I mean, like Bath's got a 58% winning ratio, and they win by 110 points on average. Their points difference is 110, so they win by 5 points on average. Whereas Saints, the 73%, and they win by 8 points. So they are slightly better. But on the day yesterday, I mean, on Saturday, I agree with you. I didn't watch much of that game. But you mentioned about the one thing I do want to talk about is Thomas du Toit and his versatility. And now he almost helped Bath pull that one off. And he's not in the Springbok squad now. That's quite an interesting one. Why do you think it's maybe because of the northern side's not being allowed to play yet?
Yeah, I think there's what I've heard out of the Springbok camp is that we mustn't draw too many conclusions about the longer, wider season based on this particular set of names, because if you're European based, except for Pollard and one other player,
Visa,
I forgot. Yeah, Visa. So Leicester Tigers. There's a question of minutes logged, and they have some like internal rules, and so I think there's going to be a solid group of European-based players that come back into the mix. So when we get into the Ireland test, etc., and in the second Irish test, maybe. I think on form, so Thomas du Toit, Tank du Toit was the best signing in the premiership. I think everyone at Bath says that Finn Russell was a very big pickup, but Tank was bigger. Tank he scored tries. He was tough in what we used to call the tight loose, really good carrier, excellent decision-making in pods. But on the day in that final, the biggest match, and that's why I always get more into the big matches and the point end of the season. So the Harry Index sort of, embraces recentism, but only for a reason, is that it's tougher and tougher, and some of the early games are throwaways. Tank was immense. He was the best player on the field. Had Bath pulled it off, he would have been man of the match, and I probably would have given him man of the match even though they lost. Why do I say that? So we talk about versatility, and we talk about Grant Williams being able to play 4 positions, or Faf de Klerk being able to play at 10 and 15. We talk about the ability that gives a team to go 7-1 or 6-2. And more than that, Aquacha gives you the ability to play a different way and adjust to a certain thing. The ability of Pieter-Steph du Toit to play fine on the wing. He's not going to run away from someone, but he can man that position. Tank du Toit did something really amazing, because his fellow prop on the Lucid side got properly red carded, by the way, really early in a match. The problem for Bath was one of the ways they were going to stay in the match and get in was playing tighter, reducing ball in play, having more set pieces, and winning the scrum, which they were going to do. But what if you can only do it for 55 minutes? Then you're going to get run away from in the end. Tank du Toit was able to switch from tight head, take off his scrum cap for some reason, almost like he had to switch his brain, and now I'm going to play loose head. Switch to the side, dominated both sides, yielded penalties, gained, I think, +4 on penalties at scrum, while still doing all his work on lifting, resetting, mauling, and cleaning. And he was just immense. Even the try he scored, it was no bargain. So, I think you look at him and you say, whether it's Trevor Nyakani, whether it's Tank du Toit or others that can play swing prop, it is vital in today's game to be able to switch. So what would have happened if he couldn't is around 50 minutes, when the replacement Lucid was done, then there would be uncontested scrums. And that would have given away one of the most important ways Bath was going to come back into the game.
Okay, let's just briefly talk about that squad. That's quite an interesting list of names, and especially if they say that we shouldn't pay too much attention to it. Yeah, right. As if, it's this is the team that's going to be playing next week against Wales. It's going to come from these players. And I was wondering, I said to you earlier, I wonder how many names got deleted off the list after the Storm was lost, with them, Rassie now being able to choose from them or select them or include them in the group. I wonder who else might have lost out there, because there must have been a backup plan if the Stormers continued in the tournament in the URC. So, because of quite a few Stormers now suddenly in the running here now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it was good to see Dixon. So we were talking about proper sixes, but he was playing 7 in a good way, I think, in a way that could translate into test. I'd like to see him on his cleans get a little bit lower for test rugby. I think everything gets called and adjudicated a little bit closer. Sasha was a no-brainer. I think he brings a kind of versatility, and I think that's the name of the game for Bokland and Bok Rugby. We don't know exactly how it's going to shift with the new coaches, but it seems to me like a Tony Brown really prizes that Kiwi ability. When you look at Kiwi teams over the years, they usually have guys who can play three positions. You know, the Israel Dags of the world, the Ben Smiths of the world. So Sasha kind of appeals to me as sort of a starter kit for Damien Willemse. I'm not putting him there, guys. Don't worry. I'm saying that he could be. He's the kind of guy who has the skill set. So interesting. I think it's interesting that there's basically 5 guys in there that can play 10. I think, I mean, Pollard cannot play. So you're looking at Rassi basically admitting that the heir apparent is not completely clear, or at least he wants some depth charting at 10. And that's one of the positions when you look at 2027 and you say, how do we get from here to there? 10 is one of those positions that it's not abundantly clear who has that jersey. Sorry, Libbok fans. Manie has not taken it and just stuck it on himself, you know, with glue. It's up for a debate.
Interesting thing for me, who's not there, is Nwamba. Sanele Nwamba. I thought he was a shoo-in. I mean, a number 9 and a 10, probably more of a 9 than a 10. Actually, not probably, definitely more of a 9 than a 10.
Size-wise, right? He's more of a 9.
He's too small. Yeah, he's too small. They're going to target him, but the guy just offers that kind of thing. Same as a fuck that you just said can play a 10. Yeah, there seems to be a bit of a debate in Twitterland this morning about that selection. Yeah, but I think, my honest opinion, I think we're going to see Siamasuku in a Springbok jersey sooner rather than later. That guy, if you talk about big match,
I like that. I think,
yeah, he's the one.
Yeah, I like that. I think he's got that kind of coachability too. I think a lot of what you see is, and I was some players I was wrong on. For example, like Jasper Wiese, I thought he was too one-dimensional, too much of a card magnet, and that he wouldn't get involved unless he was carrying. He's one of those guys like Ivan Ruiz. Like if I'm carrying, I'm great, but if I'm not carrying, I'm kind of disinterested or I get in trouble. I mean, clearly they coached him out of that. Whether it was at Leicester Tigers plus box, I don't know. Sia looks like a guy who's coachable. So I'm almost more cautious to say someone hasn't got it yet, because I go, yeah, but I think he could get it. I like the way he carries himself around the field. He looks like a guy who listens. And but also in the Sharks Challenge Cup victory, you could tell on the field he was directing things. I love that. I love that you see a 10 is okay, you know, shouting at a guy next to him. I think you have to have that. Otherwise, it's too deferential. And then if your 10 is deferential, to your point with the Bulls, or goes la-la, you know, the rest of the team really struggles.
Yeah, we spoke about the Bulls not having a general, and I still believe that Goosen isn't the answer there, and I don't know who is. But to your point at Siamasuku, you know, I spoke to Andre Pretorius recently. He coached Siamasuku when he was starting out at Puka, Northwest University in Varsity Cup, and he spoke quite glowingly about it. The guy's commitment, the how hard he works and everything. He tends to be a bit carry a bit of extra weight around, but if he goes into the right setup, I think that's what kept him back at the Sharks. Why he wasn't playing immediately? They had to get him into shape. He was a bit overweight in the likes from what I've heard. But I think for me, a better candidate as a backup or a stand-in for Andre Pollard than a Manie, my honest opinion.
Yeah, you look at ceilings and you start to extrapolate and wonder. It's not an exact science, but there are players you look at and you just say, if I have this or this change, I can do it. And, you know, nutrition and diet and fitness is one of the easiest things you can do in a professional sports setup. That's what you're there for, right? You have you're like, I'm going to control what you eat and how you train. You can change your body shape. I actually quite like a guy who's a bit, you know, fit and fat more than a guy who's rail thin, cannot take the punishment or doesn't want to be in the trenches. Musuku doesn't ever seem to shy away from contact. I like that he's big. I think a 10 has to play like a 12 nowadays and a 12 like a 10 sometimes. It's interchangeable in the channels. If you think you can hide your 10 anymore, it's not possible. Teams are too sophisticated now. They'll find your 10. It's not like Nas Botha can run away like a chicken. You have to stand up there and take it. Sorry, Bulls. But you know, I think that's the thing about Sia. He's got that dog in him, and I like that. Battle stats are not just for flanks now. I think in the box setup, they look at battle stats from every position. They don't want anyone on the field who cannot defend, even if they're not the greatest defender. They want someone who wants it. And, you can look at Andre Pollard over the years on cover, on scramble defense. I mean, he literally is booking it back there. Whether or not he's going to do something great doesn't matter. He provides an extra body, makes you turn in, and then Peter Steph cleans you out. So I look at that. Absolutely. I think it's just fitness. I like his ball strike. I like the fact that every kick looks like it's going over, even when it's not. And I think that's all you want from your kicker is like every ball strike is pretty much on. It's got a chance. It hits the post. It misses by a meter. So what? Over the course of one season, it'll be okay. But if you're missing by 10, like Manie does sometimes, or it has no hope, that makes you so... That ties your hands every time you get a penalty deep. You don't know what to do.
Yeah, well, if I have one more of those side eyes, when the Manie glances at that freaking shot clock again, that upsets me. And I've never seen that with Masuku. And that makes me very happy. Let's put it like that. I wanted to just say one thing about this squad, though. For all the Northern players not being here yet, not being available, this is a freaking good squad. Now, we can make a pretty good Springbok team out of this one. Probably almost the best team we can. I mean, who's not really there? Andre, and he's in the squad. He can't play. Ox is there, Mark is there, Malherbe is there, Eben is there. The team almost speaks itself here. I'm just a little bit unsure about how much they're going to give guys a bit of a chance against Wales. Maybe new guys, bringing in some new blood and the likes. And then also, are they going to balance preparing for Ireland? Because they made this test or arranged this test specifically so as not to go into Ireland cold, because Ireland is effectively Leinster, and Leinster is probably going to win this URC competition. So they have to do something to get the box, back into a bit of shape as a unit.
I mean, what I'm hearing from the players that I know inside the camp, and I won't name them, is that the vibe is that we're going to go in with best available, experienced team, get a win on the books, but have a bench that can bring in the new, not use the starting lineup for that. So you might see a guy like Mapimpi back in the fold. You might see a guy like, just it might be an old school team. It might be like a throwback to 2019 almost. Get the win. Get you feeling good, bring guys like Eben off at 50, 55, and then bring something in. So for me, on the Stormers basis, I was a little bit surprised that Ruben van Heerden wasn't in. I thought he had a really fantastic year on the work rate, battle stats. But so I think, grooming the new locks, if I look at 2027 and I wonder, so 10 and then 4 and 5 is an area where the depth is not completely obvious. And every other position, I can almost see the depth chart, maybe 13 as well.
15.
You can kind of see, yeah.
So, yeah.
So I was wondering about that. So apparently that's what's going to happen is they want to get wins on the books. The new coaches as well Jerry brings that kind of mentality of like, no, let's not like in the name of getting depth, let anyone have bragging rights over us. I know they want to beat Ireland. They want to beat Ireland properly, like give them a real hiding, pull the pants down and give them a nice red cheek spanking. That's the vibe. You're right. Wales, we don't know. But what I'm hearing is that they want to go ahead and get some guys, some nice, clean, good minutes and get a nice lead, and then also throw some guys in and see, can you manage the game at the end? I think it's excellent to see what game management looks like from young 10s and 10s that are not tested. And even if you want to say to Manie, hey, this is an actual thing, like we are not that happy. Show us that you can steer a game. That's good too. Like no one wants Manie to fail. I want Manie to succeed. I would love it if he would. But I think he has to show that ability to say, this is my game. I'm making the game. It's not just no look cross kicks. It's also like putting ourselves in the right position, winning the territory game, and you just got to make your bloody kicks.
Just on that subject of depth, you mentioned 13. As Jesse is incumbent, almost injured. David Kriel is a good 13 lately. I don't know who else there might be. David's never even been in as far as I know, involved in the Springboks that much. That's a problem. I agree with you. And then in terms of 15, I'm not sure if Vali's not playing and Damien is now out. Is it Sasha or is it Fassi, for example? Who do you think is going to be even the starter in this game, because there's no obvious starter.
Yeah. So Willemse is definitely the incumbent from the long term. I think everyone sees him as, if everything goes right, he's the guy in 2027 in Australia on the World Cup with, 70 caps, 60 caps, whatever it is. And he's well on his way. And he's very young, by the way. Everyone forgets how young Willemse is. So we really set there on the backup to Willemse. Once Willie, starts to finally, go back to the farm in the Boerland, I think there are possibilities. I think the Lions kid that was named a Horn
Horn,
yeah. I think he comes into it. I think you could also shift back a Colby or when fit. KLA plays fine at 15 as well. There are possibilities at 15 that are makeshift until you get Willemse back. You also could look at a guy like Sasha as being adaptable enough. I don't know why he wouldn't be able to play a test 15 or not. It just seems like a guy. Sasha seems to me like a Damien guy where he's just a super athlete, good vision, great peripherals, coachable, good kid. There's no attitude there. But there's also kind of a superiority complex as well. Like he knows he's that good. I think that's important too. Willemse was always that way. Guys always knew that he was on his day, man on man. He's better than anyone in the world athletically. He can chase you down. He can go over you, all that stuff. I think we're in a good spot. I think it's exactly what Rassi said. He wanted to test and try different possibilities. I just worry about the depth of grunt locks, of real enforcer locks. And on 13, you don't like Moody? Your boy Moody looks like he could swivel.
No, my
and
boy
play
Moody
big
is
at
out.
13.
He's out.
I know, but like long term, do you see that as a block?
No, I'm just thinking about next weekend, basically. Yeah, long term, I don't know. I don't like him at 13, to be honest with you. And he also basically admitted in one of these conferences lately that, maybe
he's a wing.
He's a wing, yeah. He works on a wing. He's tall, he's fast, he's agile, like you said, he's got the hips and everything else. Why would you want to go be an average center when you can be an exceptional winger? I don't know. Doesn't make sense.
It's so hard. It's such a hard position. It's exceptionally hard in any team to have a good 13. I always talk about it being the Baryshnikov or the Kalashnikov. You got to be a ballerina out there with your ability to turn and wait and not blitz someone, the ability of not to do something, not commit. And you're always making sure you understand where your 12 and your 14 or 11 are. But then when you have to go, you have to clatter someone. You have to be. That's why Jesse Creel's so good. It may not look pretty, but when he meets you, ball and all, you're going down. Yeah.
I think if you're talking longer term, not just next Saturday, I honestly think David Creel needs a closer look. He's an exceptional 13. I thought when they moved him from 12 to 13, that's a mistake. But he's doing extremely well there. I think he's one of those guys like a Sasha and everyone else. He can basically play any position, some of them better than others. But yeah, but definitely in terms of depth.
Yeah, so we would circle that. And against Wales, I don't think you're going to have too much action on 13 particularly. Wales doesn't get the ball to the second or third receiver that often. But it might be 2 or 3 times in a game. They might be the most important times. So you have to somehow stay in the game, and suddenly, boom, you're on the stage. I think that's great. I think that's a circle position. I think whoever comes off the bench for a lock is maybe the second lock, the fourth lock in the Springbok system. I think that's important, and the ability, I think, for Malcolm Marks to find his jumpers. And the rustiness for Hooker is a lot more about the throwing into a line out than it is the others. He'll be fine. He'll be fine.
Listen, your boy Salman Murat now, I rate him. I rate him as a captain as well. I think he's one of your enforcer locks, don't you think? He's a bit of a gentleman. He's a bit too quiet, maybe, not as aggressive. But, that guy can play.
The Bok coaches really rank him highly. He's a very smart guy.
Yeah.
He has the sort of coaching and captaincy pedigree from his family. He won't let the side down. I worry there's maybe not enough Mur in the Murat. I always I want him to find that. Just a little bit on the edge. Yeah, I want that. He's almost too much of a gentleman.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's why I said he's too much of a gentleman. There's not enough dog in the fight there, But I think he's got other ways.
That's coachable too.
Yeah, he's physical. Yeah. He's big. What I like and I rate about him is he's a good leader. And honestly, think longer term, even maybe higher honors in terms of being a leader. I didn't rate him that highly. I speak quite regularly to Angus, little Stormers guy. I say little Stormers guy, big Stormers guy. He knows him quite well. He explained to me about the family and the background and everything. And then I started watching him. And I watched him last night as well. No, he impresses me. I think he's got a long way to go. In terms of the Bulls locks, I don't know. Ruan and the two Ruans. Yeah, the Ruan Orkia is they've always say he's got a great engine and everything else. But again, he's too light. I think they're not physically enough, like you said. And I think that's one of the Bulls' problems. Both those locks, 4 and 5, Ruan Vermaak and Ruan Orkia. I think my honest opinion, they're a bit light. You need bigger guys. Maybe Kobus Visa next year. Maybe he'll make a difference. We'll see. Or next season, actually.
I think Rowan Northampton did save you guys with the running back sliding. Wicked catch. It was very well done.
John T. Rhodes there. You catch there. There you go.
And he got to the ground quickly, which, made him off target, off limits, which was also smart. He didn't have to go that way, but he did. I thought he showed some acumen there. And literally, I thought that was the moment where I thought, okay, now you guys are safe.
Something else
if that thing hadn't.
Yeah. One other guy I want to just mention before we move on is Edwin van der Merwe, the Lions winger. And I think he's probably there because now both these bull wingers or Bok wingers at the Bulls are injured. That guy can shift, Edwin van der Merwe. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a shot.
Definitely. And I think I always think that the Boks now have kind of developed a prototype. And so one wing has to be like an NFL cornerback. And so you're an OND guy. You go both ways. You have to swivel. You cannot develop lactic acid. You're a guy that just go like a machine. And luckily, South Africa actually produces that type of winger in a way that no other nationality does. They're not big. They're quicksilver. They get off the ground. They have good verticals. Just super athletic, but like, pocket rocket kind of stuff. Mm. And I love him. And I think playing well in a team that's not winning all the time is huge. And I think test coaches who really know their stuff know how to coach that. You factor in, you take a few points off of the guy who's in a team that's dominant because he looks dominant for a reason. And you add a few points to a guy that can make something out of nothing, that's on the back foot, but somehow makes it. I love Edwill. I think Edwill's really got a strong future. He just, there's a lot of them. So maybe this is his chance. I don't know.
Next weekend or at the next LRP or Lekker Rugby Pod, we can have our first little LRP, our little Bok team, what we think it should look like.
Nice.
It's the week before the game. But I need to apply my mind here, get out of this bull funk, which probably when I have to think about it next weekend, we would have lost again against Leinster. I hate saying it, but I mean, let's face reality here. But I never say never. You never underestimate the Bulls. One thing I want to say, Harry, I didn't mention it earlier, but I spoke to you about it last night. The Bulls crowd disappointed me at Loftus on Saturday. There were 20,000 people, just under 20,000 people. That's close to 40% capacity. But they were dead. Nothing happened. I don't know if the DJ went on strike or whatever the problem was, but there was no singing, there was no dancing, there was no was it lekker, is it lekker by Loftus, nothing. And I felt it was a bit deflated. And you want to play at home, and Jake made a plea in Afrikaans nogal in the press conference last night. Please, guys, pitch up to Loftus and make sure you come and support your team. We want 52,000 people like we had against the Stormers. And it's no use having a full stadium if the people are not participating. You need that sort of upliftment from that kind of a spirit. I was so almost surreal yesterday at Loftus. I don't know how to explain it. I just wanted to get it off my chest because it really bothered me.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very weird nowadays. The buying public, the sporting public, the consumer of organized professional sport is very weird. And it's not manufacturable. Like you can have a coach say whatever he wants in the press conference. Not really. It's really just almost spontaneous. I think Leinster is one of those drawing cards. Maybe it's that people are just so tied to the couch. Their entertainment systems are so good at home with the huge speakers and the massive screen. They just don't want to go and go crazy anymore unless it's the big match. If you don't think that playing Leinster in a semi-final is a big match, I don't know how to help you.
Yeah. I'm a little bit worried about that. People might think that I do that. We're never going to beat Leinster. We're not going to bother pitching. I'm a bit worried about that.
I think it's more that Benetton's not really a household name. Just like you feel like you're playing a commercial. It's like, what is that, Benetton? That's nothing. Leinster is like one of the top 2 clubs in the world. And because you're playing at home, you get to see them. A, B, you get to beat them. I mean, if there's this is your good chance to be the story of the weekend. In the whole world of club rugby, Bulls beat Leinster is the lead story.
Yeah, well, Jake said last night that we're the only team that's ever played against full-strength Leinster sides of all the South African sides in the URC and the Champions Cup, whatever. But I think he's got another thing coming this Saturday, especially with Jacques Nienaber being involved. Oh, yes, I tell you, that's going to be a major problem. I don't know. I don't want to be too negative, but I saw Jake's, the cocks turning in his head. He wasn't really in that press conference. He was already thinking ahead, The funny thing for me is another little thing. Gertley got injured, and by the time we had the press conference, he said, the operation's been booked. Organized somebody Sunday morning. He's having his operation. The plate being put into his cheek, like Dupont did. All done, all organized now. So they're not sleeping in Loftus or in Pretoria at Loftus, put it like that. That's the interesting thing. Anyway, Harry, I enjoyed it. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yep. Excellent time, man. Lekker.
The Lekker Rugby Pod. Rugby across the globe from a South African perspective.